Bienvenidos a The Grateful Leader Podcast, donde hablamos de liderazgo, desarrollo de talento y cultura laboral para gente agradecida y con propósito, que quiere evolucionar el mundo laboral. Somos sus anfitriones, Gaby y Gerardo. Bienvenidos.
Welcome to the Grateful Leader Podcast, leadership, talent development, and workplace culture hacks for purposeful and grateful people who want to shift the workplace. We are your hosts, Gerardo and Gaby. Welcome.
Good day, everyone, and thank you for being here again with Gaby and I at the Grateful Leader Podcast. Today, we have a good friend from Mexico, but currently he lives in Montreal, Canada. His name, Manuel Ribeiro. Manuel, how are you?
Fine, thank you. I'm really glad to be here. Thank you, Gaby. Thank you, Gerardo. And yes, we are here in Montreal. I've been living here for the last 15 years, more or less.
Excellent. And well, Manuel is the founding president of MXIQC and CEO and managing director of Stratecca International. Manuel, tell us a little bit more about first who you are as a person, and then what are you doing with these companies that you represent and founded?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I like to say it in French. I'm a Mexicois. So I was born in Mexico. I was born in Mexico City almost 50 years ago, and I've been living in Canada for quite some time now, the last 15 years. But I happened to study here when I was a kid from 4 to 11 or 12 years in Quebec City. So that's why I was really fond of this country, of this province. And I always told myself as a kid that one day I'll come back and live here. And I had a chance to do that 15 years ago with my family. I have 2 daughters and my wife, Mexicans, and we all of us, and we came here 15 years ago. And it has been quite an adventure, a good one. We had the chance to be able to already speak the languages when we came here, which is a strong asset when you change countries and you immigrate. But still, it's a challenging adventure. And well, part of what I do as president of the MXIQC and before that as president of the Latino-American Chamber of Quebec was a little bit that to share and to try to how do you say to pass along some of this learning that happened with these challenges, so other people can have a faster and better integration into this beautiful country, right? So yeah, that's a little bit what I do. Stratecca, my company, is a company that we're a consulting firm, a small boutique consulting firm. We help mainly Canadian companies wanting to go to get to international markets, particularly to Mexico, but we've helped some companies go also to the US and to attack other markets, right? I mean, the process is pretty much the same, even if the country is different. The challenges that you will encounter in each country and even region are different, but normally the methodology to assess this challenges is pretty much the same.
Good. Thank you, Manuel. And of course, that's one of the reasons we were really interested to talk with you, because Gaby lives also in Canada, in another city, of course, in Halifax. So, Gaby, please go ahead with the first questions that we have.
Yes, so we have some questions for you, and I would like to start asking you about, in your opinion, what are some of the key challenges and opportunities you have encountered in fostering entrepreneurial alliances between Quebec and Mexico?
Well, I think, first of all, most of our clients and the companies that we've helped internationalize are small and medium businesses. That's where we bring more value to our clients. I mean, bigger firms normally have more means to hire bigger firms and to enter the markets through with more information at their fingertips, and thus they tend to reduce the risk of understanding how a new market works. So I think that, I mean, the challenges is to understand the dynamics of the place that you're I mean, it's even every industry has particular barriers, entry barriers in different countries and different markets. So that's the first part. You know, is there something interesting for my company, the products or the services we sell into this new market? Are there advantages that we can foster and try to harness to get competitive advantage? And also, what are the barriers and the problems that we will encounter that we don't have in our local market, right? So that's the first part. And a lot of the time, this doesn't come from a formal assessment, a formal study. A lot of companies have already decided that they want to go to the US market or to the Canadian market, and they lack this research part. So that, I think that's the main challenge. I don't know if you heard, but there's a phrase that says, "You don't know what you don't know." Well, that's the main problem, right? So one of the things I always tell my clients, we tell our clients is, let's start by exploring. Let's participate in missions. Let's go to a couple of fairs. Let's talk to your potential clients, to your potential competition, and try to understand what are those opportunities and barriers. That's the first part. Then after that is it's pretty much very straightforward. It's you make a plan, you work your plan, and then you plan your work, and then you work your plan. Basically, it's I mean, you have to have a budget so you don't get strain at the middle of the project, and you don't have the means to achieve the project that you started, and then you see this adventure in a new market as a failure, but the failure is not because of the market, it's because of the lack of planning, right? So that's the other part, is to build a plan. That's what we do mainly. We help our clients to clarify what they want to do, what they want to achieve, to see if that's it first is achievable, and second, what it's gonna take to get there, and then make sure that they have the resources to do it. And then it's a lot of discipline in following the path that you set forth in the project, basically. So does that answer the question?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much for that. Do you want to add anything, Gerardo?
No, not for now. As you know, I have prepared other questions for Manuel. Yeah, please go ahead. Yes.
So, talking about intelligence, cultural intelligence. So how do you approach cultural intelligence and stakeholder engagement in building successful international partnerships?
Okay. That's a very interesting question, and it's we could maybe write a book about that. Just in the cultural intelligence and the cultural differences between the way of doing business in one country against another. One of the things that I usually do when approaching a new market is to get close to the legal representatives of the different countries. Why is that? Because if you have the chance to get with a professional protocol person, you know, an ambassador or a consulate worker that studied for that, they'll tell you a couple of things that are very interesting. First is every culture has a different take on how things are explained. And the first lesson that I learned is that some cultures are more what was the name that Tanya is the business representative of Mexico here in Montreal, in the consulate of Montreal, and she told me something super interesting. Is a lot of cultures are very contextual and other cultures are not that contextual. So what does that mean is that whenever an English speaking person and this is more true the more you get close to the roots of, you know, English people, Australian people, German or German speaking countries are very little contextual. That means that whatever they say, that's what they want to say. And Latin cultures, we are very contextual. That means that when we say something, it depends a lot. The meaning depends a lot of how we said it, when we said it, how fast, and how the inflections of what we said, and the tone of voice, and probably the gestures and everything that happened before and will happen after what I'm saying will define what I really want to say. So and we have a lot of things. You know, I have a lot of clients that come to me after meetings in Mexico, and they say to me, Manuel, it's a done deal. I mean, it's like everybody said to me yes, you know. So, and I said to them, well, you have something signed? Do you have like a time? No. But they said to me yes. I said yes, but Latin people tend to avoid conflict, so they will say yes to the concept. Yes, we want to do business with you. We're not meaning yes, we'll buy it right now, right? So and we have a saying in Mexico for that is there's a song. It's diles que sí, pero no les digas cuándo. It's tell them yes, but don't tell them when. And even if it's a joke, it's not a joke. I mean, it's you have to contextualize a lot when doing business. So this is a like very little example of cultural intelligence when doing business. That's something that, and that's why our services are highly sought after, because we are very good translators between Canada and Quebec, in particular, Canada and Mexico. Okay, that's why we have success. And the second part of the question, can you repeat it, please?
Yeah. So how do you approach cultural intelligence and stakeholder engagement in building international
stakeholder engagement? It's as I say, you're dealing with different dynamical business cultures. So one of the things that we try to do, and that will level the fields between the two cultures, it's contractual work. That means we force or we corner our clients and their counterparts, their stakeholders, whether it's a joint venture partner or a provider or a merger and acquisition or whatever. It's we push them to get contracts done and to explain this contractual part as best as we can. So, and it's a little bit boring, but it levels the field between these two different cultures. And that's the first thing. It's we write things down and we try to be as to put as much context as we can between our clients and their partners.
Thank you. You describe really well high context cultures versus low context cultures. And these apply only not to business, in HR, in leadership. So yeah, Great example. Thank you so much for that. Can you also share an example of a successful cross-border collaboration? And what did you do, or what were the strategies that contributed to that success?
Well, normally we're bound by non-disclosure agreements, and in this case, I have the permission to talk about it. It's one of our clients here. It's a company called Trevi Manufacturing. Well, I called them first to ask them their permission to talk a little bit about what they did in Mexico. And this company is a Canadian company, fully owned Canadian company that manufactures and sells all things tied to pools, like swimming pools and spas and stuff like that. And they're having a lot of success lately. They're growing like crazy because mainly when one of the things that helped them was a pandemic, because people were not getting out, not going on vacation, so people were investing in having better local entertainment options at their home, right? One of these things, it's a pool or a spa. So they were growing like crazy. They were not able to fulfill demand, and they had to grow fast. And so we've helped them. First was to try to grow their local facilities here. And what we did is we helped them hire Mexican workers to come here and work for them. And that was very successful. And but that solution has some boundaries in terms of how many people you can have working for you that are not Canadians. There's a maximum quantity in terms of labor mass, and you can have 10, 15, 20% maximum. So once we got to that part, the second part was to start trying to acquire facilities across North America that will help us grow our capacity. The problem with that is that all of the other companies that we acquired, or that Trevi acquired, were also growing because of this same phenomenon, right? The company, people buying pools and installing pools themselves in their houses. So the last resort was to start a manufacturing plant in Mexico. And one of the things that we did is that we set a fully fledged plan, 2 years plan. And the client was like, yeah, but we're not even sure. I said, look, it's okay. If things change at some point, it's okay. We can change our plan. But what I don't want to have, it's not having a plan to start with, and not having options to reduce risk, because you're going to invest money and time, right? And this is like our last resort. You cannot bring more people working here, and you cannot buy more companies in the US or in Canada to build your product. So that was it. It was a plan, and the plan had very clear KPIs. So we had an overall objective, and then we had smaller chunks of objectives set up throughout the year. So the first one was to be able to find and open a facility that will be geographically correct for our means, then to assess that regional selection in terms of labor availability, in terms of manufacturing capacities, logistics capacities, and price per square feet, right? So that was the first part. Second part is going down and making that happen. Third part is to start manufacturing, bringing all the machines, buying the machines, training the people, bringing people from Mexico to Canada to be trained, bringing people from Quebec to Mexico to train our base there, and starting this fostering of people knowing each other, right? So it was a very organic approach. The client was at first glance, he was a little bit, I'll not say upset, but he was like, this is very long. But at the end, they saw other companies trying to shortcut this process, and they saw that their results were not as good as the result they were having, going steady and planned, and taking the right time and budgeting the right amount of efforts and time and resources. So we have a very methodological approach. When we have clients that want to short circuit these processes, we normally retire ourselves from the project, because we know that it's a recipe for disaster normally.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And Gerardo, I know you have more questions for Manuel.
Yeah, I mean, a great example for sure, Manuel. Especially, for the audience that we have. Of course, we have a lot of people from our nonprofit called the HR Tribe, and as Gabi and some others, we've had the opportunity to currently, or before, work in other countries, interact with multicultural teams every day. So again, I think this is a great example on how to understand, the leadership culture of basically someone else, or an owner, founder, team leader, etc., to make things work. At the end, within our functions, each one of us are just trying to make things work, right? And business is business. It's nothing personal. So for Latin American cultures, and also in Mexico, how we tend to confuse business with personal issues. So yeah, I mean, I think this is a great example, a great conversation in terms, again, of business. And going back to the main topic of the Grateful Leader, our podcast, how do you define leadership, and how has your leadership style contributed to the success of your team, your clients, etc.? But first of all, understand what type of leadership we have, and how do you define it?
I think that's a very difficult question to answer, because different backgrounds, different industries will need different types of leadership. That's first, and after that, I mean, it's not up to most of the leaders of their companies to decide what style they will have. They have the style that they have, and they can polish it, they can change it, they can learn a little bit, but at the core, they're gonna remain the same. So I've dealt with a lot of different styles, very hierarchical ones, very Mexican, very paternalistic, and very the opposite completely, like very horizontal leadership styles. And I can see that all of them have nice stuff. And what I think is there's a style for each different leader. I won't try to have, I don't know, I'm right now I'm working a lot with this guy that's the CEO of a co-working space here in Montreal, and he's super horizontal guy. His style, it's completely open, there's no strong structures, and it works super fine. You see the dynamics of the company is super nice, super good. Some people won't adapt to that. I've spoken with some of the people that have went out of that company, and they don't like the lack of hierarchy, because they're used to. So
Right.
I'll say that it depends a lot on its adaptation. I think a good leader have to understand where he's in, what type of company he's leading, what type of people he's leading, and he has to adapt, and then he has to shape strongly but surely and slowly the culture of the organization towards what he wants to have. But bold styles and also sometimes work very well with larger organizations. Different stages of organizations also need different type of leadership. So I'm gonna give you the consultant response. It depends.
Well, it's an interest take for sure. And yes, I mean, I agree that a leader needs to be adaptable, flexible, and depending on the needs of his or her team, yeah, you need to adapt, or depending on the situation, on the context as well. So yeah, I agree with most of it, definitely. Now, how do you the second part of the question, how
Yeah.
has your leadership style contributed to the success of your team?
Well, the thing is, it's a complex question also, because first, I don't like to talk about what I'm doing well or bad. I mean, that's not for me to assess. But what I think that we bring to our clients, and we're a very small team, but one of the things that we do is that we assess very well who our client is. That's the first part. We try to understand what the leadership style they have, if they're fast to make decisions, do they require a lot of, we have Canadian clients are much more risk averse than American clients, and Mexican clients are much more emotional decision makers. Sometimes they will act on hints and stuff like that, and the thing is, a lot of the time they're right. So the first thing that we do is we try to identify what is the style of our client, and then depending on the type of mandate that we have, and let me tell you something, we have refused contracts because we feel that we cannot help our client with that some particular types of leaderships. And we know that at some point we're going to clash, or what we say it's not going to be done, or it's not going to be taken into account. So when that happens, our company, as I said, is a very small company, and we rely a lot on results. Our sales cycle, it's very, very long. So we have to be good. We have to have good results. We cannot afford to lose a lot of contracts, and so that's why the selection of our clients and the assessment of our clients, it's one of the things that we're very good at, and that's one of the things that I, as a leader, I think bring to my team is that it's before making decisions, let's gather as much information as we can. Then let's process that information, because information is not knowledge. We have to see how this information reacts and acts between itself with what we have and with the markets. And then we'll say, guys, something, we think we can help you out, but these are the conditions that we think are paramount to have success. And sometimes we put this success factors as deal breakers, and that's part of the stuff that we put. And I was telling you at the beginning that contractual work is very important. Well, that's part of it. We're gonna put it down. We're gonna explain very, very black and white and say why we think this 2 things or 3 things that we think are very important are deal breakers if you guys don't engage into that, you know? So yeah, that's it. It's trying to assess as best as we can and gather as much information as we can from our clients.
Yeah, and also you said something really important. Transparency in every business or personal relation is paramount. Yeah, to be transparent, and to be clear from the beginning if you can help a business or not. Again, I think that has to be present in every leader's culture or, methodology at the end. Now, this would be my last question, so that we can start, closing with this episode. What are your thoughts on the future of Canada-Mexico relations and the potential for future collaboration in terms, of course, on how our leadership styles relate to each other? Because at the end, I think that the way of working in Canada and Mexico have a lot of things in common. I always feel at home, when working with also Canadian clients. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, first, I think that Canada-Mexico relationships, business relationships, and every other type of relationship are bound to grow and to get more solid with time. And there's good factors behind this feeling and this thoughts, and bad ones. First, I mean, we have the positive part is that we have agreements between our countries that even if they're being there for a long time, we haven't used them at their fullest extent. So that's the first part. We have mechanism and infrastructure already in place that will help us get more and more out of this mutual relationship. That's the first part. Second part is that Canada and US and Mexico and US relationship has been taking up most of the attention of all the partnerships, right? I mean, we tend to look a little bit less to Canada as Mexicans because US takes almost all of our attention and vice versa. And that, I think, it's bound to change because of political changes and because other negative external factors are going to get into play. And what are those negative factors? It's the tendency of the world to close a little bit more in itself. So groups like Chinese economy being much more aggressive towards American economy, and the need for this partnership that we have between Mexico, Canada, and the USA to stop being just like an economic thing and start growing into a more organic partnership. The phenomenon that we're seeing right now in Mexico called nearshoring, it's mostly used right now by Asian companies. So if Canada and US don't see that we need to foster more this relationships to be able to compete against China, we're going to have a serious problem. But I don't think we're going to have that. I think that everything is going to be moving towards a closer relationship between the 3 countries. But particularly, I think that Canada and Mexico have a bigger gap, and that bigger gap is also a bigger opportunity to get ourselves closer. I think that your job and my job and you know, this kind of blogs, they help a lot. We have to start having our leaders in Canada and our leaders in Mexico start looking at the unseen part of the market, the Canadian market for the Mexican companies and the Mexican market for the Canadian companies. And at the end, the other part that's super interesting is that we still have a huge potential in the rest of Latin America and South America as a market. So that is a market that I like to say to our Canadian clients, let's do partnership with Mexican clients, and let's go and grab those Latin American markets before Chinese come all the way through and grab them for us. We have the advantage of geography, of language, of culture. We have all the advantages, so just let's use them. I think it's gonna get better.
Yeah, I'm sure about that as well, Manuel. And thank you again for your time. This is a moment for Mexico, Latin America. I live in Monterrey, Mexico, and the connection with Canada is quite strong. Also with our local Canadian chamber, the Canadian consulate, they are doing a great job. And Gabby is also aware of that for sure. I mean, she's from Monterrey, she lives in Canada. Gabby, please go ahead with closing questions and comments. Manuel, thank you again.
Thank you.
It's very important, the commercial relationship that Mexico and Canada they have at this moment. And one important thing to mention is when you were talking about leadership and the way you accept and filter clients. And I think it's not very different than having an employee, because you're always looking for this cultural fit. And you were also mentioning these cultural differences or emotional, cultural intelligence. And I think, well, Canada is based on this, on cultural intelligence and diversity and inclusion. And that's what makes Mexico a great business partner, because Mexicans adapt. And we welcome anyone very warmly. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why relationships between Mexico and Canada, they're great. So thank you so much for your time. And where we can find you online? Do you have a LinkedIn?
Yeah, well, my profile is in LinkedIn. It's Manuel Ribeiro. It's always connected. The company website, it's www.stratecca.com, with Stratecca, it's a double C. And for the business council, it's www.MXIQC.org. So feel free to give us a call or an email, and we'll gladly help you out if you have questions about how to internationalize, how to whatever you need between the two countries. We think we can help you, or at least we can point you out to the right people or right organizations to help you out.
Thank you. If you're listening to us on Spotify, you can find the information below, and same on YouTube. Gerardo.
Thank you very much, Gabi. Gracias. Gracias, Gerardo.
Muchas gracias. Un abrazo. Take care, everyone.
Good eclipse.
Bye.
Bye-bye.